All right, we're live, guys, and I'm excited to be presenting to you. I know it's been a while since my last time I got onto Facebook Live and just talked about the market. Last time I was at my house and I was just reviewing between two wildly audacious opportunities that we have as a nation to either go towards a stabilization in the housing market when it comes to real estate or actually head towards mortgage meltdown. And I wanted to just respond to so many questions that have been asked over the course of those few months since I've popped on and did one of these broadcasts. And I get questions every single day. David, is this a bad time to buy? Because interest rates are going up, and I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to overpay for a property. I see prices still going up and houses jumping off the market. I see some reductions here and there. What should I do? I get other questions like, I'm a seller right now. Did I miss my opportunity to sell at the top of the market? And I'm not really sure what to do right now. I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to buy a house and then all of a sudden the market drops and, we enter into some crash like 2008. What can I do? And so I get these questions often. I thank you guys so much if you've been following my market updates that we post on Instagram and Facebook. Hopefully those are helpful as well. Hopefully you've signed up for some of our proprietary software when it comes to just keeping track of your home's value. But for real estate agents who are out there who just are not sure how to explain this to their clients, listen up. This is what you can do. Showcase the facts. No one has an absolute crystal ball with this. All we can do is look to the data and do the math and make predictions accordingly. And for those of you who are buyers and sellers in the market, I'm going to be showing you a couple of different graphs here, and some of them are going to pop on the screen even just now to just show you some of the information that's out there, because we hear this information from CNN or Fox News or whatever you watch, and they're just going to describe whatever sells headlines, but it's not actually walking you through the data. And so I want to really just show you, this is the data from the MLS. Now I'm showing you Connecticut. My team services Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Florida, hopefully a few other states in the coming months. But this is what's going on right now. Prices are increasing and have been increasing since essentially 2020 when COVID hit. Now that's due to a variety of reasons. Number one, it's because people decide, we got to work from home and I need a bigger house and I need more space. I can't do this with, 2 kids and 2 dogs. And, we're both trying to share the dining room, and I need to figure out what I can do. And people moving from the city, and people saying, I'm going to work from home permanently now. And that increased prices. And why did that increase? Well, the reason that those home prices increased so much was because it's just a simple supply and demand issue. And there just was not enough homes to sell. So let's say when COVID hits, this is back here in 2020, all of a sudden we started to see our supply begin to dip. Now, a healthy market, for some of you guys who are like, well, what's good, what's not? I'm not sure we use qualitative words like this. We'll see, a market with 3 to 4 months worth of inventory is pretty healthy. But once we start dropping below, sellers will look at the market and say, well, I don't want to put my house on the market because I'm not exactly sure. I don't know where to go. And so if they don't know where to go, well, where could I buy? And so we dealt with questions like these over the past few years of, I need to find a place to go, but I'm not sure where I can move to. And so I don't want to list my property. And what would actually happen is many deals would end up being done between brokers off market. And the reality is that some of this is starting to lighten up. But as we look back at this data here, we're starting to find out that, the supply market is not really improving that much. In fact, for these past few months, we've been really just hovering at around 2 months worth of inventory, which is actually pretty concerning, because people are like, okay, there's not a lot of homes coming to the market. Well, if not a lot of homes come to the market, what should happen to our sale prices? And yes, that's exactly right. Without supply, demand keeps driving. Now, why is this? Why is that happening? Well, one of the basic things that we all, need to actually have a better conversation about is, who are our buyers these days? And the buyers in the real estate market, for the most part, yes, it's people who want to downsize and move south. Yes, it's people, who are, want to upgrade their properties. But 2 major driving factors of where our buyers are at are, number one, a millennial population. I try to liken it many times to, when people came back from World War II and they needed to find housing, and it was like, hey, it's time, to buy houses and start families. That millennial population, of which I am a part of, has raised their hands and said, as much as we liked having avocado toast and just hanging out and, traveling a lot and going out to breweries, You'll see a lot of breweries closing recently. You'll see a lot of, travels, here and there. What people are really wanting to do is they want to start a family. And so what they're doing is they're finding houses. And so that massive population is moving in. And so there's 72.1 million millennials out there. And even if only 10% of those were looking for homes, that's 7.21 million buyers who are in the market right now looking for property. And if you're not aware, there's only on the market ever between somewhere around 1.1, 1.5 million houses that are out there. So consider that as another massive buyer in the market. And the second one is not to be ignored by anyone are the investors who are out there. Now, normally in years prior, you might think of that, oh, it's the investor who wants to buy a multifamily and wants to rent it out. Oh, it's the guy who wants to buy a beat up property and wants to fix it up. Well, that's not always the case. In fact, massive corporations across America are now buying single family properties, multifamily properties. So when you're bidding on a home, it's not just you who's bidding on a home, it's investment firms who are bidding on that property as well. Cash, close in 7 days, no contingencies. They're fixing the property up and they're renting it for a premium. And why does that, how is that starting to show up? Well, the rental market right now should not be mistaken in any way. Well, let's look at that. If we look at this is from Apartment List, here's where the rents went. Now, guys, just follow the money. If you follow the money, you'll start to find out where the market is actually moving, right? And you might be a little too late if you're not doing the math ahead of time. But last year, we saw pricing around 17% increases across the board for median changes in rent. Let's just do some simple math on that really quickly. If you were, in a rental and you were paying $2,000 a month in rent, you could see increases to around $2,300 for the next time that you decided to renew your lease. Now, for many people, they're like, man, that's quite a hit. And they started then again to look at housing as, to purchase housing as another opportunity. Well, these massive investors are out there buying up these properties and saying, you know what, we'd like to put a lot of capital behind this, and regular buyers like you and myself and people who we help every single day can't compete against cash that's 15%, 20% over the asking price. Why? Because they're not looking to ever put those properties back to market. I want to be clear about that. They're not looking to buy these properties and keep them and then fix them up and then sell them at, the next day. This wasn't like that Zillow operation that they tried years ago. This is, I'm going to buy these homes and we are going to hold on to them for an extended period of time because we know that housing is an issue in America. It's straight up the problem. We're short by like 5 million units in housing. Well, how did that happen? Well, back in the day, when we had this massive crash in our industry, let me jump back over to this. If I was to look back at what housing was like, years and years ago, after this crash in 2008, and I want to be clear about that, that was due to credit fraud. And so because of this credit fraud, many builders went out of business and they stopped building this new construction. And new construction basically got behind by not hundreds of thousands of units that our country needs as we continue to grow as a nation, but by millions of units. And that spread into different stratas. That wasn't just your mid-range $300,000 buyer. That wasn't the $500,000 buyer. That was also affordable housing for multifamily, et cetera. And only now that we're short so many houses and we have such demand that hit the market that I've been talking about, did we see these prices continue to rise in the way that I've just been showing you? And so what do we do from here? Because it looks like we've got a problem with housing. There's not enough for it. Prices are starting to escalate. We're also seeing the problems of rents beginning to rise. And even this year, we've seen rental prices raise as much as 6-7%. So what do we do about all this? Well, I'm just reporting the data. It's kind of like I'm a newscaster here. I'm not going to make any predictions just yet. So we talked about that. Well, let's talk about the interest rates. What have happened here over the past several months and years? Well, if we look at the interest rates, over the past several years, we've been getting used to these 3% interest rates, even down to 2s. I know one of a good buddy of mine, James, was able to lock me in. I think we locked in like right here, like a 2.65. I was so pumped about that. And that was really cool. But since then, the government has been just fighting against this runaway inflation that threatens all of us, really. And it can be a massive detrimental impact upon a nation state. And so they've got to get it under control. And so what they're doing is they're actually raising our interest rates on the short-term financing, and that's impacting the mortgage market. And so you're used to, if you've been, pricing out homes, you've been used to, looking at these 2-3% interest rates, but now you could be accustomed to around 6%. And so the thought process is, well, where do we go from there? Is it a bad time to buy, and should I wait? What should I do from this? And so then, I often ask people, I was like, well, what's been said about this, and how can we combat this? And so I look at inflation, and this is just like a really helpful, this is a helpful tool. You guys can find this at Trading Economics, and it just kind of tracks inflation and what we're doing. And this inflation does not appear to be going anywhere anytime soon. It's taken a little bit of a dip, but it's increasing dramatically. And so what do you do from something like that? If that's the case, then, really what the government said, and this is, Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell, he's basically committing, saying, hey, listen, I'm committed to seeing more pain for the American family if that's what we need to do in order to get inflation under control. And I'll do whatever I need to do. And then that's going to be raising these interest rates at 75 basis points or 0.75% of, in order to raise those, in order to accommodate and slow down the growth of the US economy. Why is that important? Well, once they slow that down, man, now all of a sudden we're not going to see prices escalating as much as they are. And so they are committed to do that. So if you're, sitting on the sidelines as a buyer and you're like, man, I'm not really sure what to do, in the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, we don't see this going anywhere but up. So let's review really quickly. We're seeing that prices are still escalating. We're seeing that housing supply is at all-time lows due to just a national-wide, issue that we're short on housing. We're seeing that rent prices are continuing to increase, and those are trending in the same line as inflation as well. Well, what else is going on that we're seeing, and why are people, getting into the market, not getting into the market? Well, one thing that we haven't looked at are the labor statistics, and so let's pull that in. I'm going to hide one of these stats here, and I'll actually. They've been just really frustrated by the process of them going out and trying to find new help, and the prices for employees just continuing to escalate and escalate and escalate. And so when we start piling all of this information together, we start to realize that we really need to get this under control, and we need to figure out what we can do from here. The last thing I want to kind of review for us is hey, what's going on with the stock market right now, and that's pretty important. Because that can be a major factor here, and the stock market, if you look at on the screen as well, you can see that the stock market reached certain peaks. We were around 36,000 on the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and we've just been in a little bit of a bear market here over the past several months, if not the whole year. And so as we're like really adjusting to these new interest rates, as inflation keeps impacting people's everyday lives, the stock market is also reciprocating. Now we're seeing movement in certain energies, like certain sectors like energy, et cetera, where they're having massive issues globally due to what's happening, in the global political climate. But our stock accounts have been drastically affected as well, and that's causing people to jump in and out of the housing market. If you're seeing a real issue with your stock portfolio, one great asset to get into is to have a different investment vehicle such as real estate. And so some people are dumping their money and putting it to good work there. Other people are saying, hey, listen, I'm so scared about what's happening in my stock portfolio that I'm not sure if I want to buy a house personally for myself. So we're seeing investors jump in because of the stock portfolio. issues. And then we're seeing other people who are buying maybe a second homes. Those have gone away as, you know, a little bit because they're seeing issues as well with their portfolio. So where do we go from here? Like, what's the prediction? David, you've been talking for 15 minutes about like all of this data that's happening. And I think it's important because if we don't review all of it, then we really don't have all of the data together. It's like when someone just says one quick snippet of a specific market, and then we just like move on and we don't like add anything to it. We just extrapolate from there. There's an issue, which is why I feel it's so necessary to put it all together. Well, here's my prediction. Here's what I think is going to happen. So if you by chance ever watch 15 minutes of this, here's what I think is going to happen. Number one, I think there's a tale. There's two tales that are going to be told. One is going to be the tale that eventually we get to this interest rate level, which is just where finally inflation gets under control and we start to see it like really drop. And I think that this is all going to be politicized. That's just my personal opinion. And I think that the administration has an opportunity to either say, hey, look how we handled this. We were able to get inflation underway. We looked at the past administration and we saw that they were advised not to lower interest rates, and look at the problem we got into and we solved it. So I think that either that's one of the options. And then I think the other option possibly could be, and again, I'm just making simple predictions here. I could be completely wrong. I'd love to see your comments below. Please tell me I'm wrong. I love to be wrong. That's okay. But what I'd love to be is right for our clients. And so right for our clients means at least telling them some of this data. And the other option here of my prediction of where I see this going is the complete opposite, where we actually really enter into a runaway inflation environment period where these rates get hiked so quickly in order to try to curb this inflation, which is generally the correct response. Maybe too late at this point, but we get there, and then all of a sudden, it's too bad, and we start crippling parts of our economy in such a drastic way that maybe bailouts are needed, and that forces more money into the economy, which actually just exasperates our issue with inflation. And it's going to be bailout time, and there's going to be problems. And so, I love presenting these two opportunities of like mortgage meltdown or stabilization. And now I'm coming back and I'm basically saying, well, listen, it's either going to be, we saved everybody with hiking these interest rates, or guys, we really need to step in, and a major, crisis of urgency needs to happen. So I'm not in any way trying to be doom or gloom or, sugarcoat anything. I'm just trying to report on what I'm seeing in the market. I'd love to hear what you guys are saying. If it was me and I'm a buyer or a seller, I'd get in touch with me in order to walk through some of your options with some of our proprietary software that we have. Book a consultation, just review what your real estate net worth is. If you're a real estate agent and you're not sure how to understand this data, you want to learn more, go ahead and follow me on some of these social platforms. I do this kind of stuff all the time, whether in person or over Zoom or digital experience for coaching, etc. I'd love to help you guys in that. Hopefully this has been helpful. Thanks so much to all who watched all 18 minutes of this. Have a great day.